But can you see that it always works out? We're going to get into it. Hi, I'm Joe. Welcome back. This is the Ultimate Love Letter. Thank you for joining the conversation. When we look back on our life, we can see clearly how it has always worked out. As we move forward in our life, can we carry that knowing that it will always work out? And that is the challenge. And that is where we all are at. No matter where we're at in life, we all have this one thing in common. None of us know for certain where we're going, but can we remember the moments where God has always carried us through? I was just really inspired to put out this convo just because of my past, week that I've had. I have been booked and busy for the last few months, going from one place to the next. Every single day, there are several things on my calendar to do, several clients to reach. I'm hosting for a TikTok brand. I am hosting for the Ultimate Love Letter. I have blogs to write, and then trying to squeeze in time, with the family, yoga, meditation, time with God, all the things. It has been busy, beautiful busy, because I'm learning so much about myself in the process. I'm learning how to navigate a tremendously big schedule where I know just in itself, God is telling me this is where you are headed in life. And here is a training ground. Everything, the big dreams that I have, that I speak to God about, that God has laid on my heart about. As we converse about those dreams, I know He is telling me this is what it looks like when you're stepping into those dreams. How can you navigate? How can you cope? How can you still find peace and stillness within, the busyness of life? So it's been beautiful. But I noticed just about, the last week or so, things began to slow down for really a few days. But as things were beginning to slow down, I immediately felt the different sensation in my body, like, oh, wait, God, like, is the busy season over? Is the rapidly booking clients over? Is the resources going to slow down? But as I began to think those thoughts, God instantly infused me with the reminder of, can you accept this slowdown as the reset that I'm giving you, the rest that I'm offering you? Because it's about to get busy again. Can you trust me while, yes, the clients are coming in a little bit slower, while the resources seem to be a little bit quieter this week? Can you still trust me that all I'm doing is offering you rest? You've been busy for months. Here is your resting period. Can you take it? Or are you going to allow the anxiety, the thinking mind to pop up and give you worrisome outcomes? Can you understand what is really happening? I am blessing you with rest and relaxation. And when it's time to be on again, you'll be on, never to skip a beat. Like, I have been hosting, for instance, for a beautiful brand on TikTok, I've been hosting their TikTok lives. If you're not familiar with TikTok live, it's basically modern day QVC. And I know that when God was telling me this is your second stage, I know He was wanting to show me behind the scenes, wanting to show me how all of this operates as we are growing our own brand. Basically school. He was offering me the second stage to show me things that I didn't know, things that I do not know how to strategize and market. But God allows a beautiful opportunity, like hosting for some other brands, the beautiful paid opportunity, right? To be able to learn as I go. But I also know, this is strictly temporary, because this is certainly not what I'll be doing, for the rest of my life. This is not where God, is taking me forever. Absolutely not. But I know that God was showing me something that is going to be of value for where He is taking me tomorrow. So as I've been hosting for this brand, their season 1 ended and there was no start date for their season 2. So, the mind does what it does. Well, geez, their season 1's coming to an end. Well, what's going to happen tomorrow? Am I going to let go of this resources? Is everything that I've learned coming to an end? It feels like I'm just now really grasping, behind the scenes and marketing and branding and all these things. But God, is this the end? The mind just kept going. Then, as I began to think about that, right, as the slowdown of that season 1 was coming to an end, I noticed something else was slowing down in my life. The clients that I was booking outside for my own business was also slowing down. I have been consistently getting alerts for like the last 3 months, like always alerts going off, somebody wanting to, book a session with me. But as that began to slow down, at the same time when the TikTok season for this brand was slowing down, I was saying, okay, God, I don't understand. Is everything, slowing down? Have I made a wrong turn? What's going to happen next week? Those of us who are entrepreneurs know business comes with waves, right? You're up and then you're down, and then you're up and you're down. And if you want to get closer to God, if you really want to trust God, become an entrepreneur, because this is the scariest thing to do, is to rely on God, because you're not relying on, a steady paycheck or any of that. But it was the battle of what I know is true and what the ego, my thinking mind, those worrisome thoughts were telling me. So of course, as those worrisome thoughts came, like, okay, shoot, you were booked and busy last week, but this week it looks like you don't have any new clients. You're not going to be hosting on TikTok this week. It kind of looks like a standstill. And I just continued to push through, like, you know what, God? Nope. It always works out for me. God, nope. I'm trusting you. I know that if I'm slowing down here, it's only because you are offering me the rest and relaxation right here. Let me not squander my rest and my relaxation of this week by simply worrying about next week. Let me release it in this moment so that I can take the rest that you're offering me. God, I know that you have this under control. God, I know that when the time comes where I'm not to be working with TikTok, I know you will let me know when that time comes. When my time is up on all that I needed to learn, I know you will be the one to say when that time is. I know that when it's time to stop working with one-on-one clients and now life looks differently, perhaps I'm scaling, perhaps I'm doing something else online, I know that you're going to be the source of that too. So what am I really afraid of? You are working it all out for me. It always works out. And so as I was going through the days of, quieter days, and I would come home at hours that I hadn't been able to come home at, for the last 3 months, it's almost like, well, what am I supposed to be doing now? Like usually I would be hosting right now, or usually I'd be with a client right now, or usually I'd be doing this right now. But now I have all this essential free time to just do nothing. And I enjoyed that rest. I certainly did. But then, of course, that ego will come in and say, uh-oh, this is a standstill. Uh-oh, this means less money. Uh-oh, this means, something is wrong. And as I began to just simply not even fight back, but fight back in a sense of releasing those thoughts, watching the thoughts, those worrisome thoughts arise, but simply tapping into what's true. The truth is, it always works out. And as I began to just spend time with God and just reaffirm my faith in Him, reaffirm my trust in Him, thanking Him for the stillness that He is offering me this week, you know what happened? I instantly got alerts. Clients started booking me for the following week. I ended my season 1 with a brand only as soon as I exited that studio room. I came outside to someone offering me another opportunity with another brand. And I know God was simply saying what He always says. I'm simply waiting for you to release, simply waiting for you to accept the stillness, simply waiting for you to trust that it always works out. And the moment I finally released it, the moment I finally embraced the stillness, the quiet time, the relaxation of what it looked like this week, was the moment all the business, the resources, the money came back the following week. Look at God. But isn't that what He always does? Think back in your life today. He is always working it out. Oftentimes He waits to the last minute, but really that's just an opportunity to stretch our character, stretch our faith, stretch our belief in Him. So as I went from a slow week into just the next week was popping and busy just as ever, I look back and I'm like, thank you, God, for the stillness. But before I looked up, I realized I was laying on my couch. It must have been 11 p.m. And I just organically went to check my business email, and I realized I had booked a client at the same time when I was booked for a course that I do with my nonprofit organization. If you don't know, I'm a life coach during the day, and I'm partnered with a beautiful nonprofit that I work with. And, every year I have to recertify for certain things. And sure enough, I had scheduled myself to take this course that was not online. It was actually in their offices. And it was all day. And I have a new client that I was booked for in the middle of the session. And I thought, oh my goodness, now I'm set. Now I'm done, because there's no way I can, take the call with my client and also take this course. Then I thought, well, how can I work it out, God? Possibly I cancel the course. And then I looked online. When is the next course? Well, the next course is coming up, in the next couple weeks, but I have a client booked for that day too. So maybe I have to cancel that client to take the course. But I thought, this is a perfect day. The date that I've selected to take the course is a perfect day. It's a weekend. I'm being paid for the course. So why do I need to sacrifice another client in a couple weeks while I can take it today, be paid for the course, get it done now, not have to worry about it over the next couple weeks? But it was always that thing about, but I have that client in the middle of the day. But something deep within me was saying what God always says. It always works out. And I didn't know what it looked like, but I understood this is what always happens, right? We always get an opportunity where there's a break period. I thought, well, maybe, there'll be a break in between the course and maybe I can take the call at that point. But we have this specific time for me to take this call with my client. It needs to line up just right. But something inside of me was saying it always works out. Don't cancel the client. Don't cancel the course. Intend to do them both, and it will always work out. So with that, I went and I did the course. And here is when I immediately began to see how God was working it all out. I arrived to the offices and everything looks closed. I sent an email to the instructor who immediately, she was running behind. She had me and a few others that were going to take the course waiting. She opened up the gates like half an hour late. And then I'm thinking, okay, this is good. Like I could just see how the day is being pushed back. And I'm thinking maybe we could push it back so far where possibly I could take this call, midday, kind of where I have it scheduled. We finally go in and I see her rushing in, putting out all the learning materials, getting the projector ready, doing all the things. And then as we're getting into the course, now possibly like an hour later, we seem to be going pretty fast because she was, trying to make up lost time. And at the end of every module, she would ask us, do you guys want to pause here for a break or shall we keep going? And every time I was the first one to say, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Because in my head, I'm thinking, I want to push us all the way to like a lunchtime, which is actually the time where I have my call with my client. So sure enough, wouldn't you know, we went through module after module, and every time she was asking, do you want us to keep going or do you want us to stop? And we just all kept voting, keep going, keep going, keep going. Finally, there came an hour where she didn't even ask anymore. She says, okay, at the end of this module, she says, we're going to stop. And we're going to take a break. Do you know we stopped and took a break minutes before I needed to take my call with my client? Look at God. I was able to step out, and during that lunch break that we got, took a call with my client right on time. I got to still keep the trust of the client, right? Remaining professional, keeping the time, not showing up late. Was able to offer the services that they were looking for. And then when that call ended, I looked up and it was time to re-enter my course. How did it all work out? How did the timing all align perfectly? That is nothing but God. That is what God does when we trust Him wholeheartedly. When we trust God wholeheartedly, we're actually in the flow. We're in His flow. We're in His will. And when He says, I will offer you, I will provide you with an opportunity to see how miraculously I work, how I work it always out for your benefit, He will do it the moment we embrace the discomfort of what it looks like. My thinking mind would have said, there's no way I can do a call and a class at the same time. It would look like it's overlapping. There's no way I can do it. I have to cancel one or the other. But I just listened to that still voice. I had pure intentions when I booked the course on the day that I did. I had pure intentions when I booked the client. And I know God had pure intentions when He says, I want to make sure that I want to be able to bring in these financial resources of both the course and the client. So do you trust me then to work it out where you can be paid for both, seemingly while they're being overlapped? But God made a space where it would always work out. Only God can do it. The minute we start responding to life and not reacting to life is the minute where God works it out. Reacting to life means if I would have looked at my calendar at 11 p.m. the night before and saw that I double booked, if I would have got up and been, aggravated or beating myself up, like how stupid, how can I have done that? How did I miss this in my calendar? How did I not add this? How did I double book? How am I going to do it? I got to cancel one. That is reacting to life. Responding is, whoops, I double booked. Okay, what is this teaching me that I double booked? Well, what it was teaching me was, yes, I have to make sure that everything goes into my calendar, which for the most part it does. But when I got that last minute client, I was so eager to take them on. I just knew, my normal day that day, because it was on a weekend, I'm clear. So I don't need to, check my calendar. No, God was teaching me like, girl, you are booked and busy. You need to check your calendar, at least double check it real quick before you book anything. I know even on the weekends, when you think you are clear, because where I'm taking you and because you see how life is becoming booked and busy, you now need to scan your calendar every day, even on the days where you think, you're wide open. Just takes a second, just to double check that you're all clear. That was the lesson. But as I got the lesson, and also as I began to hear God say, I will work it out, I just began to move like it was all worked out. And then God worked it all out. Look at God. God is always reminding us of He is unchanging. We are the ones that are always changing. God is the same. God is the same God that He was since the beginning of time, since Genesis. He is just as faithful as He has always been. Can we trust Him? The answer is absolutely. And when we trust Him, life will work out marvelously. We will be in the flow. And we will begin to sit back, relaxing, not worrying when things look chaotic, when they look like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do it. We understand that's divine timing, and we can just relax in the flow of God always working it out. Another little testimony I have is, I'm getting ready to take a trip in a few days now. And, I'm in between that, like 5 days before I leave. And I looked up and I noticed that, my refrigerator was almost empty, but I still have 5 days before I leave. Now, those of us who travel, and I know that's almost all of us, you try to consume everything in the refrigerator and you try to line it up perfectly to the trip so that you're not wasting any food, right? But you need to have enough food to get you to the trip. Well, I noticed that at the end of the week, I almost had consumed all my food, but I still have like 5 days. So I'm like, okay, I need to go out and get fresh fruit, and I need to get some veggies, and I need to get some more coffee creamer, and, and all the things. So I made kind of like a short list of things that I thought, I could use that would last about 5 days, but not 7, because I'll be gone on that 7th day. I don't want to waste things. So I got up, went grocery shopping, got home, put everything away. And then I realized, wait, maybe that's not going to last. Maybe I undershopped. So I was like, okay, well, now I have to, spend time tomorrow going out, of my busy day, and maybe doing another round of grocery shopping. Look at God. The next day came and I was invited out to lunch with my parents. I went out to lunch. There were tons of leftovers. As I got back home, I realized all the leftovers that I had are going to, sustain me for at least 2 days. I don't eat that much. And here it is. Now I'm only days away from my trip. And now I'm looking in the refrigerator. I have so much food. What once looked like just a few days ago that I wasn't going to have enough and I would probably need to add more. Now that same amount of food, actually less because I've been consuming a few, now looks like a cornucopia of food. Like, it's just so much to the point where I need to give some of this food away. I started freezing vegetables and fruits. I started freezing, other things that I bought, and the rest I'm going to pack up and give away. But I know, again, in that moment, I was like, God, you're always working it out. And you're showing me, even where there looks like there could be lack, when I'm trusting you, when I'm in your will and I'm in your flow, that lack, when I'm trusting you, when I look again, will look like overflow, will look like more than enough, will look like more than enough to share. Because God, you are always working it out. I just wanted to remind you, family, remember how God has worked it out for you for the last several decades of your life. I don't know how old you are. Maybe you're 20. Look at the last 2 decades of your life. Maybe you're 60. Look at the last 50 decades of your life. God is always working it out for us. How can we trust Him to work out our situation right now? I know the world looks scary, but God is still in charge, and God is telling you, can you take your eyes off the media and look to me? Look to me, that it will always work out. And once we begin to affirm, even when it might be hard to, even when we're trembling with fear, if we can simply just muster up the words, God, I trust you. God, it always works out. Before you know it, you will be over the hump. You will be through the wave. And you'll be able to look back like, wow, you really did work it out. Well, of course he did. Because he always does. Doesn't he? You've got this, friend. And God has you. It's time to start moving consistently like he does. Thank you so much for joining this convo. I want to thank you for finding us on YouTube. Thank you to all our 900 plus subscribers. If you're not subscribed there, make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you give it a thumbs up, comment. Let me know what you think about this combo. Let me know where you feel like you're in the flow. Are you in the flow? Do you recognize how God always works it out? We'd love to hear from you. I also want to thank everyone who has checked out our shop, Tull.shop. That is linked in our show notes. Also, all of those who have purchased our new book, Fake as Vegan, a book on balance. I am honored that you grabbed a copy. Make sure you go back to Amazon and you review the book as well. I read every single review. I read every single comment. And thank you for being a part of our community, our mastermind. It's you, it's me, it's God. Until next time, love yourself and love others. We'll chat again real soon. Bye for now.